Welcome back to Two Witnesses Live. I'm your host, Watchful. If you're new to the channel and you don't know what we're here for, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. Hopefully you like what we talk about today. Something that's unique about this channel and the reason why it exists is I believe that the two witnesses have been revealed, and I put my stake in the ground that I believe that it's Donald Trump and Elon Musk based on all the available data. If you're brand new here and that sounds like a complete and total shock, you're not alone. I think I'm pretty much the only guy on YouTube who's actually saying this. So I'm hoping that it pays off at some point in the future when people wonder how the heck I knew. It's based on the data. I know it seems completely absurd, but that's what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight is how it is possible that, well, we're actually not going to talk about Elon Musk and Donald Trump being the two witnesses. That's kind of the point of this whole channel is that's why it exists, is to pay attention to what it is that they're prophesying for their 1,260 days. You may notice that I've got a little ticker down there in the bottom that says that we are on day 79 out of 1,260 days. That is because that's just where it lines up. We're going to get into it, but before we do, what I wanted to talk about today is something, this is actually a little bit old at this point. This is a video from Ben Davidson, friend of the show. He's been on the show before. He has recently updated his timeline for the pole shift, and that's what it is that I wanted to talk about. We're going to get in a little bit into the timeline. So we're going to go through the timeline. We can talk about why it is I've put my stake in the ground for Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And if we have any time left, maybe we'll do an update about what those two have done today. I know I'm really behind on what it is that they've done. I need to play some catch up. I'm probably going to do a video that just goes through and lays out their first 100 days. And then that'll be my catch up. So I'm trying to work it back into my schedule. If you're not aware why I'm not on the air every single day at this point in time, just extremely busy. Working on getting back into the routine so that you guys can, plan a certain time to catch me on here and we can talk about, what's going on in the world and specifically with the two witnesses, because I'm pretty confident we're watching them work. I know it seems absolutely crazy. Anywho, let's go look at Ben Davidson's video. Hey, Lisa. Thank you. I love that music too. I must have listened to it 20 or 30 times today. The album still hasn't been published to YouTube Music. So any day now. But you can listen to it at a lot of different places. I put the links for those albums in the description if you want to listen to my albums. I'm trying to do teaching through music. So there's two albums. One of them is the first one is Promised Seed, tells the story of the Messiah. And then the second one is Seven Lights, which is a song written to each of the seven churches to remind them what it is that they should do before Christ returns. Because Revelation 2 and 3 pretty much lays out the seven churches, 5 of which have things they need to do before he returns. All right, so enough with that. Let's listen to what Ben Davidson had to say. So this is about 2 weeks old, so I'm planning a little bit of catch up on this. But it's very interesting because it plays into the timeline of things. So here we go.
Welcome to the new government tracking of the Earth's magnetic pole shift. The brand new site is up and kicking and much better than the old one. We're running the magnetic North Pole motion here, slowly traipsing around northern Canada for a few centuries, and then the acceleration. The magnetic pole shift is a cyclical event on Earth, and it's pretty major. Noah experienced it. They line up with the Younger Dryas catastrophe, the last glacial maximum, and every Heinrich event in the last 50,000 years. Major losses of species come with every event, and earlier today, in the morning show, we covered 2 special reports by ALLATRA, a collection of scientists who have also come to the conclusion we're about to experience Earth's disaster cycle. Now, I want to be clear. All
right. So before we go into the Earth's disaster cycle, this is something that I kind of went down a rabbit hole on in 2021, 2022, when I was studying why people lived for over 1,000 years, right? And this was based on a group of Christian scientists who have been doing research, and the results of their study was that atmosphere UV rays, basically the condition of our environment determines how long we live. Granted, there's also food, nutrition, stuff like that, but the environment plays a huge role. So the disaster cycle is intimately involved in the history of your life. And I think it plays a big role in what's to come. After this video, we're going to spend a little bit of time in the timeline, and I'll show you why I think this is important.
Major
So basically, Ben is saying here that we're about to experience an acceleration of the pole shifts, and he's going to adjust his timeline accordingly. Really interesting.
questions about this group and especially their ringleader, but when they cite their sources, I can review it myself, and there is a lot of good stuff in here. That's what I'm going to show you. In the first report, they identify the fact that there are magnetic anomalies, not just climatological ones, and that can't be blamed on human pollution. In fact, we're seeing changes on the other planets too. It's a solar system shift. But it was the other report that really spun me sideways yesterday.
That is something that I have been hearing a lot. Is it's not just like the sun and our planet which are changing, but it's actually the entire solar system. There's a couple different people that I follow who pay attention to the instruments we have pointed at different planets and pointed to the sky, and that's a common theme: is that the universe is shifting, is changing. Um, Really interesting. Something is coming.
Yesterday, and we're going to go over key points and then two scary points I mentioned this morning. So first, excellent job identifying the fact that Earth's rotation speed is increasing, shortening the length of a day. It's another thing you can't blame on
Did you realize that your days are getting shorter? The rotation speed of the Earth is increasing. Yikes.
humans. They break down the 1990s pole shift event that sent us from losing 5% of the field per century to 5% every decade, and which shot the movement of the poles into overdrive, along with it taking an abrupt and unexpected 90-degree turn. In a brand new Earth change for the list, they found a paper I missed from 2017 highlighting a molten jet stream in the core, and it's speeding up, which nobody subscribed to my channel finds surprising, I imagine. And of course, their main point was that they think the major event of this cycle will be the reawakening of the Siberian traps, and oh boy, I hope not. It was the greatest volcanic event in Earth's history. It erupted for 1,000,000 years, changed the planet forever. But it was the next two images I'm going to show from the report that really caught my attention. I'm not actually too worried about the Siberian traps. First, this is what I was trying to explain to you guys a couple weeks ago. The magnetic pole shift progression is not linear. It goes up and down year to year, but with a long-term trend towards that acceleration and the pole shift. Outstanding identification here of that moment of acceleration where we started shifting 10 times faster. That is easily visible on the magnetic pole motion tracker. The dots are year by year, so if they're closer together, pole is moving slower. Further apart means the pole is moving faster, and that's the speed up right there. I went ahead and actually did maximum velocity plots going backwards so you can see how before the 1850s, everything was nominal, normal pole motion. The weakening had begun, but this is when the pole shift in total began. Now, going along with this is something I noticed in their motion minus Chandler wobble graphic. Folks, I live and breathe this data, and at no point did I ever think to do this. I had long suspected that the major accelerations occur after the slowdowns, like it's taking a breath, gearing up to lurch forward again. Folks, that's exactly what is shown here, and there is no good way to mathematically or even qualitatively show this without first removing the Chandler wobble, which I never thought to do. After every single
See, let me get your comment on the screen here. So Peter's asking if the Earth's spin spread is increasing, is the speed going around the sun also increasing? I don't know. My knee-jerk reaction would be to say no, but I know the entire universe is changing right now just based on reports about what's going on in different planets. It wouldn't surprise me, but as far as the spin of the Earth, I think this is in regards to the rotation of the poles. So I think he goes into it a little bit more with the molten lava and stuff like that. Let's have a listen.
single slowdown, which all include a curvature of the motion vector, there is a major leap forward in speed and progress in the magnetic pole shift. And yes, it's clear we just had our curve in the vector, the slowdown or stalling of speed acceleration, and that means there is only one thing coming next. The major concern is, of course, that this will be the acceleration that takes us over the edge. I do hope we remember the now famous studies confirming that these magnetic pole shifts accelerate to rapid speeds that can bring the shift in less than 100 years. We have already eclipsed that time in this event, so it's anyone's guess how much time we have left. How much time until the acceleration reaches 100 times faster than modern shift rates? That is where we're going. If we were to hit that rate tomorrow, the world ends before 2030. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I have long said that math is suggesting the pole shift should occur a bit before 2050, in the late 2040s. But that is an extrapolation. It's not a crystal ball. I'm not Jesus. Folks, we await the next acceleration, the next recurrence of Earth's disaster cycle of space radiation and climate chaos and animal navigation failures, not to mention the fact that we now have the new risk in modern times of losing every power grid at the same time. Folks, the end of the window is unchanged, but now instead of it being sometime in the late 2040s, I'm now going to say it could be anywhere from 2030 to the late 2040s. We will see what the data shows. Again, we are awaiting the next acceleration. I'll see you in the morning for the Daily Show. Be safe, everyone.
Yeah, so this is the second time that he's actually increased his projection. I think it was last year when he was on the show. He had mentioned that this was before he discovered that calculation that he failed to include in his estimation for when the flip was going to take place. And he had already said that it looked like it was increasing, and that I think he had said he had even given percentages on when it could happen. And it dipped down to as early as 2027, which is interesting because that overlaps with my timeline. And that's kind of what I wanted to show you guys here. Bring it over here. All right, so let's switch this to this timeline. So if you haven't seen this, I've showed this timeline many times on the channel. There's a video I need to just rename it timeline, or do another video just about this timeline, because I'm going to be referring to this for the next 3.5 years as I update it, or as until somebody proves it wrong. So what you're looking at here is a 14-year period of time, and it is based on the Revelation 12 sign, which I believe occurred in September 23rd, 2017. Long story short, there was a sign that appeared in the heavens with 3 planets in the head of Virgo, which made a crown on her head. Jupiter was in retrograde in Virgo, which means that it just basically went in circles for 9 months. The gestation period of a child. The sun was in Virgo and the moon was under her feet. All of these are the elements involved in the Revelation 12, 1 and 2 sign. And if you're not familiar with how the universe and the sun, moon, and stars work, that doesn't happen on a regular basis. There are periods of time where some elements from that have occurred. Some of them occur on a yearly basis, such as the sun is in Virgo every year. That's how we know what month it is. Likewise, the moon is at the feet of Virgo every year. So that's not unique. Jupiter being in the womb of Virgo only happens every 12 years. And I could be wrong about that. It might actually be more like 200 years. But yeah, all the planets have different orbiting speeds, and so they're in different locations in the sky. Anyway, long story short, am I sharing my screen? Can you guys see the timeline here? No, I'm not. There you go. There's the timeline. Yeah. So this is what I was referring to. Okay. Anyway, I'm referring over here to 2017 with the anchor point. And there was a sign on September 23rd, 2017, which and I want people to verify this because this is literally the anchor point on which all of my data is founded. That sign was so rare that it never happens. Now, there are people and even books that have been written that suggests that that sign happens every 200 years. Like there's somebody who said it happened in the 1500s, the 1300s, 800s, 3 BC. And if you actually go look at all of those dates yourself, which I've done this, so I pulled up Stellarium and I went through every single date. It doesn't take long. I mean, you can do it yourself. You can pull up Stellarium, look at, target it on Virgo and just run the clock forwards and backwards. But you can see the sun, moon, and stars, how they move through the orbit and when they actually line up. And that particular alignment only happens one time ever. There are times when there's elements of that alignment to where maybe you'll have the crown of 12 stars, the sun and the moon, but there will be no child in Virgo, no planet in retrograde. There's other times where you'll have the planet in retrograde, but there'll be no crown. Know what I mean? That's usually what people are writing their books about, or they're claiming when they say, oh, that sign happens all the time. You don't have to take my word for it. You can verify this for yourself. I've done it. That's why I believe so strongly that this is the actual anchor point on which we start counting and paying attention to the events in the book of Revelation. Now, I know there's a lot of people who have studied the book of Revelation and think they know what everything means, and they're just waiting for the thing they think is going to happen in order to verify that it's happening. I've taken a different approach. I believe that once that anchor point happened, that was our opportunity to start seeing what's happening in the real world that lines up with the scripture, with the events that are written in the book of Revelation. And that's how I've derived this data here. I'm not going to go into all of this. I'll put the link to the video with the full timeline that I go into the detail on. But suffice it to say, I believe we're in the middle of seal number 4 right now. So we're right here. And the reason why I think Donald Trump and Elon Musk are the two witnesses is because it's all of this data. So, the evidence with the seals being opened, long story short, seals 1 through 4 were the Biden administration. It kind of started before the Biden administration in 2019, a little bit before Biden was elected. So December 14th, 2020, I believe is seal number 2. And that's when Biden was officially declared the president of the United States or the president-elect. But that's basically what the seals, I believe, were indicating. And you have this contrast between the Biden administration and the Trump administration. So my point is, all the data is pointing to this period of time, which just happens to be past the 7-year mark from that Revelation 12 sign. And this is kind of my point, is how far away from that sign that is so unique can we get before the day counts and the signs that are left to be discovered no longer will fit. So this is the only thing that fits. Does that make sense? If that makes sense. So anyway, so this is why I've put my stake in the ground for Elon Musk and Donald Trump, because right now the world, they're tormenting people in the world. There's a report from Fox News that just came out a couple days ago that there is an assassination culture on the rise on the far left, to where the common language among people on the far left is talking about assassination. I mean, and it's not just one of them. It's both Donald Trump and Elon Musk. These two guys. So Elon's not even an elected official. He's just working with Donald Trump. But the fact that they both have these global platforms, Elon Musk has X, Donald Trump has Truth Social. You could say they have a platform to talk to the world. And that's what the two witnesses do. They prophesy for 1,260 days. And they've been talking nonstop for 80 days, which I may need to adjust my calculation. So I've talked about this a little bit. In regards to that 1,260 days, how does it fit within a presidential term? Because there's 1,461 days in a presidential term. it's interesting that if you take into account the Sabbath days, then it fits perfectly with 1 week left over. I think there's something there to that. I may have to do an in-depth video on that because that's interesting. But for now, until we actually do that video, I'm just counting from January 20th, 2025. Yeah. So anyway, with all of that being said, I think we're smack in the middle of the two witnesses doing their thing. Whoops. But right here is the day that's really important. And I don't know, this specific day is an approximation. I'm not saying that it's going to happen on this day, but when the two witnesses die and lay in the street for 3.5 days, I believe that could be when the pole shift happens. It could be later, but I'm speculating, and this is why I'm really so interested in watching Ben Davidson's research and his observations and what he's doing, as well as these other people who are paying attention to to what's going on in the universe. Is we're creeping closer and closer to this date, right? And I think it's entirely possible that so if the earth, so where does it say in the Bible that the earth rolls up like a sky? Was that in Matthew? The sky rolls up like a scroll. Revelation 6:14. So look at this. Why was I thinking of Matthew? All right, let's look here. So this is the seals. Revelation 6:14. So actually, let's start with 12. I looked, and behold, the sixth seal. I looked when he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth as a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. Then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, and every slave and every free man hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath has come, and who is able to stand? That, to me, sounds like a disaster cycle. Right? Doesn't that sound like to you? So the way that Ben has described when the pole shifts is the whole Earth doesn't flip over. The basically the North Pole will rotate down. The north and south pole will rotate so that they're at the equator. So imagine, if you will, if you're standing outside and that starts to happen, that the Earth starts to rotate. If you're looking up at the sky, if it's day, it might become night, right? So the Earth becomes, or the sun becomes black as sackcloth of hair. There's probably going to be volcanoes and chaotic events and earthquakes, because I imagine that this is a chaotic event for the Earth. The stars will appear as though they're falling to the Earth, and it may be that satellites in the sky are disrupted by this rotation. So there may literally be stars falling to the Earth, and it could be all the satellites. As a fig tree drops its late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind, then the sky receded as a scroll when it is rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. That will be true if the Earth starts to rotate. If from an outside perspective, if you're looking at the Earth. But this could also mean that the tectonic plates shift and move. If it's true, this idea of Pangea, where the continents shifted and moved, it could be that those are moved back into a location. They could be raised above the water, so the water could recede into the planet. Who knows what's going to happen? But this is just some speculation based on observable information that we have right now. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, every slave, every free man hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks. if you have, maybe I should include this in another report. A lot of these kings and rich men are building bunkers, right? Have you heard that? What's the Facebook guy? Basically, a lot of these super wealthy people are building bunkers, right? They're building bunkers that they can go underground and survive a catastrophic event. It would not surprise me if they aren't aware of a coming disaster cycle and they're preparing for it, right? So that's why I think this is important. So let's go back over here to this tab. Is with Ben Davidson saying that the calculation puts it as early as 2030. You're only 2 years away from 2028, which lines up when the two witnesses are killed and lie in the street for 3.5 days, right? So this is kind of how I imagine this is where we're at right now. Is Trump and Elon Musk, by all appearances, care about America and the people who are here. And they're doing everything in their power. And these are two men of immense power, right? You have to understand that Donald Trump has been rich for a very long time. He's a self-made millionaire. His dad didn't give him everything. I think he took out a loan and then turned that loan into massive wealth. He prides himself on learning how to make money and how to enrich others. If you've spent any time, and I remember this as a kid, watching Donald Trump give houses away to people. Like, he would just stop somebody in the street and pay off their house. That's the Donald Trump I grew up with. Yeah, I know his dad gave him $1 million. I believe he paid that back, though. I could be wrong. But my point being is, he didn't just take something, a handout, and squander it. He clearly has continued to refine his abilities. Likewise, Elon Musk. He's no slough either. Both of these men have worked their way up to, for all intents and purposes, the 0.01% of people on the planet with capability and power. The fact that both of these guys could just literally buy a country and go retire blows my mind. The fact that they're actually putting their lives, their livelihood, and everything about them on the line in order to fix America is something that we should be paying attention to. So all this timing just lines up, right? So what I think is probably going to happen is they're going to continue doing their thing, and then something's going to happen. They're dead, lying in the street for 3.5 days. I still have a hard time imagining that. Like you, I imagine that the two witnesses would be Elijah and Moses and Elijah, right? Elijah called down fire from heaven. Moses split the sea. He dealt with the plagues. So there's a lot of stuff that is challenging my mind based on this data. And I could be completely and totally wrong. Really, it's this anchor point from 2017 that all of this is founded on. And it's because there's so many things that line up that points to this. And it's just continuing to prove out to be true. If anything's going to convince the Jews that Jesus is the Messiah, it's going to be this data. I got to figure out a way to package this in a way that maybe I should get like Rabbi Sylvia Singer on here and present this to him, or, put it in a package, because the Jews don't believe that Jesus is the Messiah, but a lot of them are waking up right now looking for the Messiah. And if you have something like the book of Revelation that was written not 2,000 years ago, but roughly 1,900 years ago. I think John was between 60 and 90 when he wrote it. It was written almost 2,000 years ago, right? And the fact that it's, lining up with things happening today and all the craziness that's happening in the world right now, to where, you have COVID, the Biden administration, and now you have all this craziness with the Trump administration and Elon Musk. And it was really October 7th that really started to wake up the Jewish nation with what's going on over there in Israel, the wars that they're fighting. Many of them are of the opinion that I think, what is it, the Ukraine Russia battle is Gog and Magog, that battle of Gog and Magog. So so many data points and so many things to consider that I really think that this has the potential to prove to them that Jesus was the Messiah that they're waiting for. Because when you read the book of Revelation, Jesus gives this to John. So you literally have a man claiming to be the Messiah who gave this information that appears to be coming to pass in our day and age. If anything has the potential for them to realize that Yeshua was the Messiah, I think it's this. Anyway, that's why I wanted to point it out. I really wanted to cover that because I saw that video from Ben and wanted to kind of, bring everybody up to date, have a look at the calendar again. With it accelerating, it could happen over here. It could happen in 2030, 2031, like you said. I mean, there's a whole video series called Messiah 2030 where they go through data on why they think Christ is going to return in 2030. That may be when, one thing I forgot to mention is, how the Bible says that you're saved, those who believe are saved from the wrath to come. To me, it seems like that rotation of the earth could be God's wrath. So if there was a rapture event, that seems like the most likely time that we would be removed, right? We would be removed from the wrath that's coming on the whole world. And that might line up with the two witnesses being caught up together in the clouds, right? So that gets into the two witnesses. It may be more than just two men. They may just be the leaders, right? It could also be all those people who are activated right now, who are, loving God, loving their neighbors, and saying Christ is coming back soon. You know what I mean? Like we could be part of that group, and that's we make allowance for that from from Revelation 11:4 that says that these are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks. Right? We've talked about that before on the channel. But anyway, I've been wanting to, the two lampstand, yeah. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to cover is there's a good chance that that's what the wrath to come could be. So you definitely want to be on the right side to where if there is a rapture event, you want to be caught up in that rapture event. And if you're on the earth during that, I would like to believe that God will have you in a safe location. Because surely the entire earth is not going to be destroyed during this period of time. But if he is putting the earth back into a pre-flood stage, it's not going to be fun. But I mean, maybe we get our own version of Noah's Ark. Know what I mean? Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover with that. So let's do an update on what's going on with Donald Trump and Elon Musk. We'll do a quick update and we'll call it a night. Maybe handle some comments. All right, today. Yeah, so there's been a lot of craziness with the tariffs. I'd considered actually, and I don't know if you guys would be into this. Would you be interested in me doing live shows to where we just kind of watch the announcements when Donald Trump is doing his announcements or when Elon Musk is speaking, we can watch them together and comment on them? I don't know if you guys if that is something that you guys would be interested in. I mean, I watch this stuff every day, just paying attention to what they're doing. It might save me time to just watch it live with you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. If that's something you guys are interested in, maybe we can start doing that. Because they're literally on TV every day. They're literally on YouTube every day, specifically Trump, because this is the most transparent administration that I've ever been a part of. And I'm an old man, been through a couple administrations. Dude's on TV every day. When he's signing his executive orders, when he's on the plane, he's talking to reporters. When he's just outside talking to people, the dude's on TV a lot. Elon less so, but he has his social platform X, and he posts every single day. So, all right. Donald Trump's primary activity on April 9th was the announcement of a 90-day pause on most tariffs. This was a pivotal move in his trade policy. According to CNBC, the White House clarified that this pause would reduce tariff levels to a universal 10% during negotiations. I don't know if you guys noticed, the stock market went crazy as soon as he announced this. Cryptocurrency markets went crazy. Man, yesterday I was getting sick and I had to stop watching stuff because I was getting sick and tired of people complaining about him. Every day, the opposition is complaining about how he's doing a terrible job and destroying everything. They clearly don't understand negotiation tactics, right? Obviously, he was doing this to bring people to the table in order to negotiate. Masterfully done. And now, today, he had over 75 nations wanting to negotiate. And that's the reason why they did a 90-day pause, in order to buy time in order to handle those negotiations. Anyway, let's continue with this update. So we reduce it to a universal 10% during negotiations, effective immediately, except for China, which is an interesting correlation with China and the Red Dragon and end time events, where tariffs were raised to 125%. This decision was reported by Reuters and CNN Business, noting it as a stunning reversal from Trump's earlier insistence on high tariffs driven by market reactions and political pressure. The announcement was made amid a backdrop of global trade tension, with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent emphasizing Trump's personal involvement in the negotiations, as per Politico. This policy shift was timed to mitigate economic fallout, with NPR reporting Trump's acknowledgement of market fears influencing his decision. Yeah. The tariff pause was set against a timeline where, as per a White House fact sheet, tariffs were initially slated to take effect on April 9th, today. Oh, we have Passover coming up. You guys know that, right? April 12th. So Saturday, April 12th. I got to put together some. Last year, it was really fun paying attention to each one of those days. I need to put together the timeline for that. Anyway, sorry. Squirrel. Slated to take effect April 9th, with reciprocal rates for countries with large trade deficits. The pause, however, excluded China, where retaliatory tariffs prompted a hike, as detailed in Kiplinger. This action was part of Trump's broader strategy to address trade deficits, as noted in earlier reports, but the sudden pause on April 9th was a significant pivot, impacting global markets positively. The Dow surging 7.8%, S&P up not almost 10%, NASDAQ soaring above 12%. Yeah, so that's interesting. So that's what Trump's mainly been doing today, which is interesting. You wonder what does this have to do with prophecy, right? Because the whole point of, the two witnesses is 1,260 days of prophecy. You and I both thought that they were going to be up there teaching us about God. I really think that everything that they're doing every day is literally preparing us for the return of Christ. And it's interesting when you think about this, because when Christ comes back, he's going to want a country with its stuff together. You know what I mean? So between, America and Israel, I expect, the crooks and the thieves and the fraud to been cleaned out, right? To a clean house. So to me, it seems like this is preparation for Christ to come back to a clean house, because I really do believe that he's probably going to get involved in the way the world works, and get it set up properly under his own kingdom. So I think that's what's happening. I think that, getting trade fair, how does that affect prophecy? Well, one way to think about that is he's getting the relationships between countries honest, because it's a fact that countries have been taking advantage of the United States for far, far too long. So that's the way I see that. All right, so Elon Musk, what have you been up to today? Elon Musk's activities were indirectly tied to Trump's tariff announcements, with a notable impact on his company, Tesla. An ex-post by Watcher Guru highlighted that Tesla stock rose 20% following the tariff pause, suggesting a direct financial benefit. This rise likely stemmed from reduced tariff burdens on Tesla's global operations. He does a lot in the United States, but I know that he's been building factories in other countries in order to build Teslas over there. I don't know if it affects the supply chain. He did come out and make a post on X talking, or actually even in the Oval Office when he was talking about when he was there with Trump, and they were talking about tariffs. He put a post on on X saying, "Make no mistake, this is going to affect the price of Teslas." So he's well aware of what's happening here, and the fact that he's still supportive and still doing his job is it's pretty interesting. I mean, with his work, and with his work with Doge and what he's doing, you have to understand that this is, and Trump has actually made this analogy that what they're doing is like surgery, right? So when you go in to correct a major problem, cancer, for instance, there's going to be a period of pain and there's going to be a period of recovery. And that's what they liken this to is, we're going through the pain. And in some cases, maybe we're going through the recovery, but that's expected down the road. When you're correcting things, when you're changing things, and that's what a lot of people are happy with about Donald Trump and Elon Musk is they're changing things. They're doing more than any freaking politician has ever done. Poor JD Vance. I love JD Vance, and I think he does a great job with his speeches. But really, it's Trump and Elon Musk who are in the spotlight. They're the ones who are really tormenting people. You know what I mean? All right, where were we? This rise likely stemmed from reduced tariff burdens on Tesla's global operations, particularly given its reliance on international markets and supply chains. The tariff pause, by lowering rates to 10% for most countries, alleviated potential cost increases that higher tariffs could have imposed, especially contrast to the 125% tariff on China, which could have negatively affected Tesla's China-related business, but was offset by broader market relief. Yeah, kind of makes you wonder what's going to happen with Amazon. I know me and my wife have been talking like, is there anything we should order that we get from China that we should stock up on in case this battle between Trump and China drags on? Who knows how long it's going to take? But the fact that they keep raising tariffs on each other, maybe this is a good thing. This is something that has always bothered me. The cost of a phone is like $12, but companies like Apple and Google are selling them for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. What a massive markup. That's we've all heard about the conditions of people who work in these factories. Now, I haven't gone over there. I haven't seen it for myself. All I have to base it on is what I've seen on the internet. I hear about these factories where they literally put unaliving nets around the building so people can't jump off because they're so miserable. I would rather not be able to buy some of those products if that situation can be improved. I want everybody to have a beneficial life. That's another thing for what it is that these gentlemen could be doing and why it could be considered prophecy is because they could be working on fixing that situation. There are people in slavery, unwillingly slaves who, you may not want to admit it, but we are the beneficiaries of slavery. A lot of our products that we get for cheap is the result of slavery. So if I have to pay a little bit more money for that to be fixed, that's fine by me. And I expect that that's probably what Yeshua wants when he comes back, is he wants that stuff to be fixed. So, all right, beyond business, Musk's role in the Department of Government Efficiency was a focal point of controversy. Ex post from Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senator Tammy Duckworth on April 9th criticized Trump and Musk for plans to fire thousands of Social Security workers and veterans. Respectively, Warren noted they were backing off, but emphasizing ongoing fights. They've come out and outright said that, so if you're worried about your benefits, they've outright said they're not going to be affected. So if you have disability, if you get Social Security, they're going to protect those. They're going to protect the programs that people actually rely on. what they're doing is they're firing the waste. They're getting rid of the workers who don't want to work, and the fraud, the the deception, the waste, all of that stuff. All right. Warren noted they were backing off, but emphasized ongoing fights, while Duckworth's call for a resolution to condemn these firings was blocked by Republicans, indicating political tension. These actions align with earlier reports, such as the New York Times, discussing Musk's polarizing role in downsizing the federal workforce. Set to end by late May 2025 due to a 130-day cap. I'm very interested to see what happens in May, right? Because right now, these two men are in the spotlight. So much so that people are organizing, and they're probably being paid for by nefarious people. They're organizing protests against Elon, to burn Teslas and protest his companies. Likewise, Donald Trump. Let it be said that these two men are particularly tormenting to people. All right. Musk's public engagement on X also provided insight with a post at 2:31 Pacific Daylight Saving PDT, replying fire to an old Trump tweet about deal making, as seen in possibly signaling support for Trump's negotiation approach amid the tariff pause. This interaction, while not a direct action, reflects Musk's alignment with Trump's policies, especially given his appeals to reverse tariffs, as reported by Reuters on basically yesterday. So that's pretty much it. I mean, it's kind of a big deal. I mean, this tariff stuff doesn't seem like it's biblical in any way, but we've talked about things that could very well be impacted by these negotiations, getting these relationships fixed between the countries. Could be a pretty big deal. All right. Well, we've been going here almost 50 minutes. You guys have any questions, any comments you want to talk about? The people are not called trees. It's metaphoric. I see men like trees. True. Yeah. Looks like you guys have been having a conversation about the olive trees. Yeah, there's a combination of metaphors and reality, and it is a challenge trying to figure out how these things in Revelation line up. I think that's part of why they were sealed, why they were hidden. Daniel was told to seal these things up and hide them until the end times. One reason probably because none of them would make sense until they actually started to happen. Look how hard it is to get people to realize that Elon Musk and Donald Trump could be the two witnesses. I mean, you're literally seeing news articles about people who hate these two men because they're tormenting them. At some point, it's got to break. At some point, people have got to wake up and go, yeah, I can see it. I mean, I know there's a bunch of you guys in the chat who are seeing it, but I don't see anyone at all on YouTube other than me who are making this claim. If there are, hey, post them in the chat for me. If there's somebody else who's talking about this, I'd love to be able to know their channel so I'm not alone in this. Or you guys can start a channel and I'll subscribe and start watching you guys paying attention, reporting on the stuff that you're seeing. All right. The Lord has his hand over Trump. That is for sure. That's the other thing that I'm interested in seeing that I think will continue to provide supporting evidence as to whether these guys are the two witnesses, the two olive trees, is if there are any more assassination attempts on either of them, because that's kind of a big part of Revelation 11, where it talks about, when people try to kill them, they must be killed in this way, which, yeah. So it seems to me that people who try get instant justice. Take off something Watchful said if you catch it. Let's see. Most talking. Demons are spirits and are illegal on earth and need a body. Satan used the body of a walking with legs serpent. The serpent legs. Not sure what you're saying here. Ray Ray. Demons are spirits and are illegal on earth and need a body. Satan used the body of a walking something with legs, serpent. The serpent lost its legs. Oops. Just like the swine lost their lives after Legion entered them. Yeah. Well, from what I know regarding demons, demons are real. Devil spirits are real. And they are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. So the Watchers were never meant, they were not supposed to mix their genetics with our genetics, Adam and Eve's genetics. The union of that, the children of that union, which it reminds me of man shall leave his mother and father and cleave unto his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. I believe that means that the becoming of one flesh, yes, I believe that it's metaphorical, spiritual, but I also think it has to do with bearing children, because that was the first commandment. Be fruitful and multiply, right? That was the first thing that God told Adam and Eve to do. But not really. It was among the first things the first commandment that he gave, be fruitful and multiply, right? So the two become one flesh. So you have the joining of the seed and the egg, which, matures into one flesh. The two become one. When that happened between the man that God put in the garden, the man and the woman that he put in the garden and told them multiply, if they started to mix their genetics with something else, I believe it's the Watchers from the book of Enoch. But when that happens, it produced something that didn't have, it wasn't blessed by God. Therefore, that's why they were doomed to walk the earth. So when they died, the Nephilim, the children of that union, die, their spirit is doomed to walk the earth. So there's a lot in that. And that's, I believe, where demons come from. The book of Enoch talks about that. Outright says that's where demons come from. Adam's genealogy in Genesis chapter 5. Cain is, I kept saying Abraham yesterday when we were chilling out to some music. I meant Adam. Must have been reading about Abraham recently. Adam's genealogy, let's see. Adam's genealogy in Genesis 5, Cain is in 4. Eve had twins, Cain and Abel, just like Jacob and Esau. Yeah, there's a lot of repeating themes. If you haven't seen Messiah 2030, I know it's really hard to digest because there's so much data in there. Find the section, and maybe I can find this, and maybe I should comment on it. Maybe we should do a video on it. There's a section in there where they liken, I believe it was Messiah 2030. I could be thinking of something else, where they liken Cain to the offspring. Shoot, what is it now? It escapes me. Anyway, the point being is my point is they liken Jesus to Abel, who Cain slew, right? Because they go through, and for each day of creation, they liken, it to 1,000 years, which puts us at about 6,000 years. So the day when man was formed, right? And God breathed into him the breath of life. Anyway, I'm just talking about stuff I can't remember right now. We'll have to do a study on that. Canadian prepper alerted to not to travel. Yeah, there's some emergency. Yeah, they were, when I started this live stream, they were doing an emergency update on the war with the Houthis. Not a good time to travel right now. What you said makes no biblical sense at all. You're talking about someone else. The two witnesses come as God and rejected as God was rejected the first time. Don't know where you're getting that. All right, I'm going to go down here to the bottom. Hey, Watchful, love your music. Thank you. I love that too. Would you guys be interested in me showing you how I did that? It's not that hard. I mean, I'm a singer. I was a choir boy growing up, so I could sing, but I don't. I considered joining a band in order to produce music, but with AI, it's given me the capability to be able to, take like lyrics that I wrote 30 years ago and turned them into songs. But it's also given me the capability to just go through scripture and turn my work from studying the scripture into music. That's kind of how this Seven Lights and the Promised Seed albums started. Is those are from just my research throughout the years. If that's something you guys would be interested in me doing a video on, maybe we could sit down and I can show you how I make these songs so that you could do the same thing. If you've got poems you want to turn into a song, if you've got something that you've studied that you want to turn into a song, I can teach you how to do it, how to refine it, maybe even distribute it. Because I learned quite a bit about distributing music. You actually do have to go run it through a mastering process, and there's good companies and bad companies to sign up with in order to handle the distribution so that you can get it out there for people to listen to. Let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in. Just put it in the comments. And if you guys are interested in me doing something like that, I can show you what I did. The heavens and earth were created in the beginning. Yes, they were. Christ, Jesus comes through the third child, Seth. Yes. Yeah. We will reign with Christ Jesus on the seventh day. Therefore, Shabbat will no longer exist? Question mark. As far as I understand, all of the no, I believe that Shabbat will continue to exist. Yeah, I'm not aware of any of that. Those are set for eternal. I could be wrong. I mean, if there's scripture I'm not thinking of right now, that should always exist. Those are given to us as reminders of everything that's happened. So I imagine that when it's all fixed, when the seed of the woman finally bruises the head of the serpent, and we put off these mortal bodies and we're no longer under the law of sin and death, I believe we'll still be observing the Moedim, the appointed times. Yeah, I believe it's eternal. Which we'll talk more about that this Saturday. I'm working on some stuff that I'd like to share with you guys, like we did last year, where we paid attention to each day from the feasts, because it's important to pay attention to these feasts. God gave them to us to enjoy. These are the real holidays you should be paying attention to. Yeah. Isn't it interesting? We will reign with Christ on the seventh day. So will Shabbat exists. Yeah, that's interesting. And what's also interesting is that it's for a thousand years, right? Because that's kind of the length of time that people used to live. A lot of interesting stuff in that. So I don't know. Maybe it'll. I don't know. Ray. I imagine it will. Cool. Well, we're almost here at an hour. Yeah, we're almost at an hour. I'm trying. I don't know if I'll be on tomorrow. I'm working on doing a video with the timeline stuff for Passover coming up. It starts on April 12th, Saturday. Yeah. And when does it go till? 20th. April 12th at sundown. And it goes until April 20th. Yeah. Cool. Well, that's all I got. God bless you guys. Shalom, shalom. Until next time.